I mean, we are such an experience-obsessed society. I mean, everybody wants to go whitewater rafting, and people want to talk about, my uncle climbed Mount Everest. It's all about experiences. We all want to ride roller coasters and see the craziest movies. There is a little powder, and you smoke this little powder, and it will change the way you look at everything. You won't care about UFOs. If a UFO landed right out there, I'd be like, wow, yeah, they're probably from another planet. Whatever. It's not DMT. DMT is 100,000 times crazier than that. It's like mushrooms times 1,000,000 plus aliens.
So my group today in Real Life Oreo, we're going to be talking about dimethyltryptamine, otherwise known as DMT, and it is a psychedelic drug that is also used in different rituals in different indigenous tribes. So this was first used in South America during pre-Columbian times, but there's no other noted times of use up until 1931, when it was first synthesized by Richard Helmuth Frederick Mansk. Then in 1955, it was the first formal identification of this drug, and the different seeds and pods of the plant Anadenanthera peregrina. Since then, DMT has been found in at least 50 different plant species and 4 different animal species, one of those being humans. The following year, in 1956 in Hungary, a man by the name of Stephen Sarza identified the hallucinogenic properties of this drug when he injected it into his muscles. He then found the link with DMT's chemical structure and how it is used in cultural conception with the different rituals in these indigenous tribes. In 1957, American chemists by the name of Francis Hopstein and Anita Paradis extracted the leaves in a plant named Prestonia amazonica. And then the most recent discovery in 1970 was also in America, and these leaves were obtained from indigenous people, and the name of this plant was P. viridis. Historically, within these different indigenous tribes, this plant has only been used for spiritual purposes, so they can feel more connected to their readings and their spiritual purposes as well. And it's been used as an entheogen to feel more connected. However, now DMT is illegal in many different countries and doesn't have many recreational uses outside of these indigenous tribes.
Now, naturally, DMT is synthesized through a different mechanism than what we saw through the synthetic process. It begins with tryptophan. That's right. This amino acid, as you can see here, the acid and the amine, you've probably heard of it before. It's the stuff that makes you very tired after Thanksgiving dinner, but you actually need it to live. So you win some, you lose some. But in order to turn it to DMT, it first goes through a decarboxylase, which is an enzyme which, as you can suggest, removes the carboxylic acid group. So now we're at tryptophan, or tryptamine. But we need to make it the dimethyltryptamine, as that's what DMT is. So it must go through another enzyme that's, again, fairly explanatory of what its name is, the amine methyltransferase, which, again, puts the methyl group on the amine, and it goes through 2 rounds of it to get both hydrogens to the dimethyltryptamine. On top of that, because of the fact that both tryptophan is a necessary amino acid for a lot of organisms to live, and the fact that those enzymes, fairly useful in nature, probably come about often, would explain the high abundance or prevalence relative to a lot of other weird drugs out there of DMT in living organisms to make DMT from tryptophan and the decarboxylase and the amine methyltransferase.
One of the best ways to produce NN-dimethyltryptamine, also known as DMT, is to start out with indole, and then use a substitution reaction onto the meta-carbon of the pyrrole group with oxalyl chloride. You combine them together at low temperatures in diethyl ether.
Whoop. What is this? Let's see here. This is, if I can open it, indole glyoxyl chloride. As you can see, it's an acid chloride. But this isn't dimethyltryptamine. Doesn't even sound like it, but I can put the dimethylamine in dimethyltryptamine. See this? As we mentioned before, it's an acid chloride. If I put it in ether at low temperatures, bam! With the dimethyl ether, do some basic carboxylic acid derivative chemistry, I can make myself an amide.
Thanks, Will. Now that we have our intermediate product, we can add a strong reducing agent like lithium aluminum hydride, which, if you remember from class, reduces everything, including your grandma and your dog. We're going to combine these two and send it over to Ethan. And in all this, you end up with NN-dimethyltryptamine. And the indole group stays relatively constant throughout because of the stability afforded to aromatic rings. So in all of this reaction, even though lithium aluminium hydride is an extremely strong reducing agent, the structure stays constant due to the presence of the two aromatic rings in the indole, both the benzene ring and the pyrrole ring. A couple of other important pieces of information regarding the activity and synthesis of NN-dimethyltryptamine are that oxalyl chloride, which was used in the first step of the laboratory synthesis of NN-dimethyltryptamine, is also commonly used in the Swern oxidation alongside dimethyl sulfoxide, as we discussed in the first semester of organic chemistry. Additionally, the nitrogen group over here in the NN-dimethyltryptamine makes the structure act as an alkaloid. And as discussed on April 15th, 2020, alkaloids have very potent effects on the brain. Other alkaloids include caffeine, nicotine, and morphine. So you're probably wondering, why is DMT relevant to real-life organic chemistry? And I'll tell you, it's relevant to you. In a study done in the 1980s, scientists proved that DMT naturally occurs in human spinal fluid in quantities of several hundred to several thousand nanograms per liter. So it's already inside you. Now, users of DMT described feelings such as euphoria, total knowledge, out-of-body experiences, and seeing light at the end of a tunnel. Now, this is similar to descriptions that people had of near-death experiences, or NDEs. In this video I'm about to show you, Joseph Garachi talks about his near-death experience when he was clinically dead for 18 minutes. Enjoy.
You've heard of the out-of-body experience, where people claim to have seen their bodies from above and able to tell exactly what the CPR teams, if that was the case, were doing to them. You've heard of traveling through a tunnel toward a light. A life review, where your entire life passes before you. Being with family and friends. And finally, the light, being part of that light.
DMT users and near-death experience survivors have reported very similar phenomenon, which has led scientists to hypothesize that perhaps your brain releases a small amount of DMT when you die. Now, this claim is unproven, but it is substantiated by the fact that DMT naturally occurs in your own spinal fluid, and it also occurs in the brains of other mammals such as rodents. Perhaps DMT is an evolutionary mechanism to give you final closure with life and prepare you for what lies after death. DMT is quickly broken down in a deamination process, and the effects of the drug usually only last for 5 to 15 minutes. Because of the relatively short effects of the drug, it was incredibly popular in the 1960s counterculture movement in the US. For some culture today, I present to you some memes.
Alright, so in summary, DMT is a very fascinating drug. It is found within many different plants and animal species. It's as seen before, only has a few steps, and is relevant in real life today because it is found within the spinal fluid of many different humans. And this drug is so interesting because it's one of the only illegal drugs that is actually found within humans.